The faster you realize that you don't know it all, A, and that you don't have to know it all, and C, that you're better off saying, I don't know, I need help, the better you're going to be.
Welcome back to Born to Unicorn. In today's episode is about the real forces behind entrepreneurial success, resilience, identity, and how personal challenges can drive professional breakthroughs. My guest is Tania Zapata, co-founder of Voice 123, Voice Funny, and she will tell us all the other companies she founded, invested, and everything. Two platforms that completely transformed the voiceover industry by making it more accessible, efficient, and global. But behind the product innovation is a powerful story of persistence and radical integration of work and life. Tania moved to US from Colombia many years ago and built her first startup with her husband, Alex Torrenegra, from scratch long before it was cool to be a tech founder. She has failed, pivoted, succeeded, and done it all while staying grounded in who she is. She's a very humble person. You will see it right now when we go through the interview. Today, we are talking about the immigrant mindset, building without boundaries between life and work. That's an amazing story that Tania will tell us, and how failure might just be the best founder mentor out there. Tania, welcome to Born to Unicorn.
Thank you, Juan. I'm so happy to be here. And I'm super excited about, talking about my experience, the ups and downs, and yeah, a little bit of everything that might help people out there that are just starting up.
Today, Colombia is a big hub for entrepreneurs, right? I think big part of it is for people like you and your husband, right? That were like the role models of, you planted the seed there. But you moved from Colombia to the US and you was fearless, because it's not easy to come from Colombia to the US and say, I'm going to start a new company and I want to build something that is as impactful as Voice Bunny was. And it is, right?
So, I mean, I don't know if fearless is the right word. I think that we were curious, we were naive as well. So there are a lot of things that we didn't know, and in a way, that's why we decided to, start a business. But I think that if we had a lot more knowledge about what we shouldn't do at the time that we did, by the way, maybe it would have been a very different story. I mean, it's potentially would have been a, I don't know, unsuccessful story or a failure, or I don't know. So I think that, that naiveness and that lack of knowledge gave us, that ability to innovate in ways that probably we never thought that could have been possible.
So do you think that being an immigrant shapes somehow the way you do business?
I think at the time, yes. I mean, I'm pretty sure that it is still does. So I feel that the fact that you have different experiences growing up, that obviously, you didn't grow up necessarily, or your parents didn't go to an Ivy League, you didn't go to an Ivy League, give you a different mindset, maybe a little more of a scrappy mindset, not necessarily going by the book, which probably allows you to get away with things that, you know, in other circumstances you wouldn't be able to. So I think so. I think so. I would say definitely scrappiness is one of those things.
And what would you say that to immigrants, entrepreneurs that are just starting out?
I think that one of the biggest things that we experienced was impostor syndrome.
What a
It's
topic.
huge.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. Because our idea, especially when we come from Latin America, and I think that it varies in Latin America, but I think some countries probably experience it more than others, is that we think we're less prepared. We think that we're less intelligent. We think that, we're less, basically. I'm not going to list all of the lessons that we think of ourselves. And unless you have that experience of being able to go to a university in the US, go to an MBA, maybe into an Ivy League school, you basically, think less of yourself. And so coming in with that imposter syndrome really gives you a big challenge, but it's more in your head than anything else. And so my advice would be there's nothing that people in this country have that you don't have.
I
Especially
love that.
nowadays when you can have access to so much information online. I think when we were starting up, I think information was a little more, you know, enclosed into universities and things like that. Now you can have this information everywhere. So there's nothing that can stop you. People here are not special. They're not necessarily more intelligent. They just have access to more possibilities.
Yeah, and even more than that, I think when you start in the in your career, you normally think that the most important is what you know, and actually what is important is who you are, right? Sometimes, you know,
And sometimes who you know too.
well, that's something that you need to make it better because otherwise it's not fair for a lot of people, right? And that's true. But it's interesting that when you interview someone, and I saw you doing that several times, you posted videos on that. One is more focused on how the person personality. You see a person and you realize it's curious. It's someone, and if a curious person, a very people will full of energy, they don't know something, nobody cares, right? You learn stuff, but soft skills and who you are and how you treat people, all those things are the most important ones and the hardest to find right today.
Yeah. One of the things that like I tell people right now, because, like one of the biggest conversations that you have right now among parents is like, I mean, how is life going to be for our kids? I mean, like right now with AI, like things are going to be, I mean, like the world is changing dramatically. And I think that the conversations nowadays focus on soft skills. I mean,
Yeah.
it's basically the ability to reinvent yourself, the ability to learn, ability basically to pivot in case, flexibility in case that you need to pivot, things are not working the way you meant it for where you're going right now. And so those all of those things are soft skills. And I think is what, is true to even businesses when you're hiring people.
And boy, you really mastered that, the soft skills. So let's go to that topic, okay? You and Alex seems to have mastered what most founders struggle with, which is the blending the life and work. I remember many years ago when I was introduced with you and Alex through Endeavor, I visited you. I thought it was going to be like a more formal meeting, and you received me in your house, and it was your husband, no kids at that moment yet, but your husband. It was your mother-in-law, employees, and at some point, you or I think Alex started cooking for your employees and for all of us, and it was like it was a perfect blending. Most people is trying to separate. You need to separate, life and and work. And what I see in your house was a different model that I
Complete
love it, and,
opposite.
and it worked perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It was an idea. It was something natural. How you created this is the only time in my life I saw, this, let's say, interaction. How was it?
So I think, and like there are a lot of like layers here, and I think that I would love to talk about the fact that like I co-founded the businesses with my husband later on. But so I think both of us do not believe on the separation of life and work because work is part of life. So like I also don't expect our um team members to separate life and work. So, for example, if somebody from my team has a sick kid, how on earth am I going to ask this person to separate that from work? It's
Yeah.
impossible. Like, this person is not going to be able to focus, is going to need time to go to a doctor. All of these things are including work, are part of life. And so, what we need to figure it out is a way in which we can implement work within our life context. And so for that matter, what we found that was better for people was so we have a set of objectives that we want to achieve. How we achieve them is on you. right? So how you manage your time, how you the process that you do to be able to get to those objectives is on you. I don't need you to be necessarily from 9 to 5 or from, like 8 to whatever. I just want to make sure that you achieve those objectives. And so what that gives people is the ability to say, like, well, I have to leave at 10 a.m. I'm going to be here maybe from 8 to 10, and then I'll come back at 2 and I'll continue working maybe until 7, whatever it is. But it allows people to give them the ability to decide how they are going to achieve those objectives. And I think that's a lot more fulfilling than just asking people to be at a certain schedule. Granted, we have some of our team members that have to have a schedule because obviously they face customers. Customers expect to have somebody reply to them in a certain period of time. But for those that do not need it, I don't think it makes any sense. So yeah, I mean, basically it's just life work integration, which to us, I mean, like to be honest, is just a joke. Work is part of life.
Yeah, it's
Life is
true.
everything.
It was surprising for me because the problem is you're not thinking about this until when I saw it for the first time in your house was like, this makes total sense. And you know that now I have people, kids working with me in some stuff, and others. One of my kids is editing this podcast. It's
I love
fantastic.
it.
Next week I'll be the entire week in the Tech Week in New York with one of my other kids. So it's great, and you can be more time with them. It's the opposite of what people believe, that if you integrate both, it's less time together. It's actually more time together, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot more natural. I feel that, like your team members are going to feel a lot more fulfilled if they know that they, like, for example, I love when kids coming to like meetings to say hi. I love that. I mean, like to
Yes.
me, that is the most incredible thing to have, like your team member being able to have their kid right next to them, because life is short, you never know. Life is short. So yeah, I think that, it's just a matter of seeing things differently and obviously having objectives that are very clear.
But it's sometimes it's hard to, here you gotta get into a lot of topics because it's a new world, right? One of those is, you're the boss, right? But also is your type of boss. I saw you interacting with your team. They treat you like a part of the family, literally, and they have a very respect as a of course as a leader, but also they really care about you, your husband, your family. They are integrated. They're like kind of part of the family. How you integrate those two things? Like you got to do what I tell you because I'm leading the company, but also you are so close to them that sometimes it's hard to put the line right.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think that we have learned through, like putting this into sort of like the experiencing it and, like fine tuning how it works out is being very straightforward with your team members. I think, like we can have a good relationship and we can have moments in which we spend time together, et cetera, et cetera. But also, like there are things that we need to achieve.
Correct.
And so as long as we don't lose track of the things that we need to achieve and knowing that, like what is the purpose of the business, I think you can have meaningful relationships with people. In fact, I would say that the fact that you're more straightforward with your team members about being objective about how things should be, I think the better the relationship is going to be, the more transparent you are.
I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it is someone that is, I'm an observer from the outside, see, all your success and your husband's, these soft skills of knowing how to talk with people, how to interact with people, and how to build teams and focus on people primarily. I think is what was one of the key of the core competences you develop and make your companies what they are or were. What do you think about that?
It's really interesting because I feel that Alex and I, we have completely different ways of leading. It's interesting. And I think, like neither I have learned from him, and he probably has learned a lot from me as well. And so we have tweaked our leading abilities. Also, I mean, like we were completely inexperienced when we started. So we have made a lot of mistakes in our process, obviously, that we have learned, and it has helped us sort of like get to where we are right now. What I think has been probably one of the key drivers of having a productive, I guess, team, but also being able to create, like meaningful relationships within our team is, as I was saying, being very clear about the objectives, tracking those objectives,
Hmm.
and being, as transparent with feedback as possible. I think that those have been probably the most important drivers of that. Um, and obviously, I think, like I can definitely look back and realize how many times I made mistakes with those relationships. I probably did, um, like things that I shouldn't have done as a leader, or I was sometimes, let's say, like I forgot that maybe I needed to be mindful about the objectives, and then I lean more towards leniency and maybe not, and so that impacted, like a whole group of people. So like I think I can look back and see how many, like learning moments I had in this trajectory, which I'm very grateful of. I'm even if at the moment was painful, for example, I think I'm very grateful of those learnings.
But it's interesting. First of all, that a person like you with your experience that says, I made mistakes. Normally, you don't hear that in leaders from 20, 30, 40 years ago, right? But I think that's a key aspect is, and I see that more and more in entrepreneurs, that this idea of knowing that you can be wrong and it's fine, right? The idea that because you're the boss, you know everything, I don't think it's productive for anybody. And to be
And it's
open,
scary too.
yes, it's scary
Yeah.
too. But the opportunity to open and say, look, I'm sorry, I made a mistake with you. It's fantastic. I believe that even you just mentioned that sometimes you got to be very honest. Honesty drives to friction, but friction is positive, right? If you want to polish something like a stone, you need to, you need the friction. You cannot
Yeah,
polish anything without friction. Sometimes avoid the friction, right? We are from Latin America. We know that well. I'm from Argentina. We don't avoid friction a lot.
it's true. But
But
Colombians do.
yeah,
Colombians, oh my, we are so against, like, yeah, yes. I completely agree with what you were saying. We definitely
and
tend to, like beat around the bushes.
but it's better when you can have an open conversation and say what you feel, and say what you know, what you expect from the other person. The relationship starts with some friction, but builds up on stone, right?
So I started a fellowship in an organization that is called Leaders in Tech, and it's really cool. But there is this thing in the organization that basically conflict and friction, once you're able to sort of like smooth it up, talk it up, and improve it, it actually makes connection stronger. And so the reality is that the strongest relationships that you have are with people that you had issues with,
Hmm.
because you have been able to resolve those issues. And so you have connected at a deeper level after you have been able to resolve those issues. I think that, like you were talking about accepting the fact that you have made mistakes and, things like that. I remember when we started, and that's why I was saying that we had a huge imposter syndrome. I think that when you are starting up, you think that you have to know it all.
Yeah.
And the faster you realize that you don't know it all, and that you don't have to know it all, and see that you're better off saying, I don't know, I need help, the better you're going to be.
Yeah.
We were talking about Endeavor earlier because we're both, Endeavor entrepreneurs. But one of the biggest impacts that Endeavor had on us was basically surround us with a bunch of mentors that basically taught us that, yeah, you need help and it's okay to ask for help because we weren't asking for help. And so basically, we were in a little echo chamber of us thinking that we're doing things well, but maybe failing, but we didn't even know what else to do because we weren't surrounded by people that have been there, done that, and knew what kind of mistakes we were making and how to avoid them. And I think that's why I think that the faster that you accept that you don't know it all and that you need help, the better you're going to be.
Interestingly, you mentioned Endeavor. The ISP, the International Selection Panel, that in which I was selected Endeavor Entrepreneur, was in Pebble Beach in California, and the company was related to AI, and it was in California. So up to that point, I was in Latin America pitching, and it was like the cool guys saying things that nobody was saying. But we arrived to California, and everybody was like, right, like. We talked about this 5 years ago. It's old, right? And during the ISP, the panelists, they were super smart. Like always, around Endeavor, people, super smart people. And we started talking about our product and all the success we had in Latin America. It was like, look, this is boring. You had like 5 seconds to make me feel interested about your company. So they kind of destroyed all my argument and everything with real information, right? And at that point, I said, look, if I'm going to fail, at least I will take advice from these people that are really smart. So I take a notepad and I started taking notes, right? In my mind, I was not passing the ISP. I did. And one of the reasons was because I started taking notes, actually. You say, okay, this guy is, they need to fix stuff, but they're open. They're open to fix what they have to. And for Endeavor, that's important. It's something that we both learn from Endeavor. You don't need to know everything. We need to be able to say, I'm wrong. I need to learn and move forward, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean that's one of the things that actually investors look into, entrepreneurs when they decide to invest. Besides that they have a sound business, like they know that how they're going to make money, et cetera, et cetera. Basically is whether how um, you know, how your ability to be able to analyze yourself, how self-reflective you are, whether you are curious and you like to learn, and whether you ask for help. I mean, like those are things that, because it basically let us know, okay, so you know that you're not going to be able to do it alone, and you know that you don't know a lot of things about this. You may know things about your business proposition, but you don't know how to execute it properly.
Yes. For how long you been married and leading companies with your husband? Normally, when you have two people that has a leader profile, it's not a great combination. How is that?
24 years.
24 years. Okay.
Yeah.
You are
24
probably
years.
the 1% of the 1%.
So, I mean, the reality is that it hasn't been easy. And we have been very open about talking about it because, I mean, imagine, so how many founders do we have that have actually fought? Like founders that are not related and completely split, like the business. Sometimes, like they prefer for the business to fail than actually give up, on their stand, for example. It's very hard. And so when you have people that have, let's say, type A personalities like Alex and I do, it's very easy to let your ego take over and not be willing to analyze it further. And I think that at the very beginning of our relationship as a business partners, that was the case. I think that there was a point in which our egos were definitely taking over and we were having a lot of friction. And so that's the first time that we decided, I think we sort of like need to take a step back. I'm gonna move out of, executing on a day to day. So we don't have this friction. And one of the things that we did was, and it was through insights and through also asking people for feedback and for advice. You need to decide what's the most important thing. What is the most important thing? And so we decided that the most important thing was our relationship. So it takes prevalence above everything else. And so that's what we have done in cases in which, like we were starting to have friction again. Okay, so the relationship is the most important thing. What are we going to do to be able to make sure that that is above everything else? And I mean, obviously it has been up and down and up and down, up and down. I think that and it goes back to what we were talking earlier, what we have been able to do is talk and repair. And I think that has made our relationship stronger. But it hasn't been easy. It doesn't mean that it has been easy. It hasn't been easy. But probably that's what has made us even stronger as a couple. I admire him tremendously. I think that he's an incredibly brilliant human being, and I have learned so much from him. And I think he has learned from me as well. So I think we complement each other really well. So yeah, it has been a matter of understanding how we can work together in a way that is productive for both of us.
And how important is that you open to all of us, to me and to the people on the other side of the screen with the personal matters that, those are things that all of us are challenged in our entrepreneurship path. I think it's important for all the people on the other side of the screen that hear your story and say, this is the way we do it, right? So we're open. Yes, we struggle with things. We talk about those things and we fix them, right?
And we support ourselves from people that can help us. So therapists, I mean, like friends, like whatever it takes for you to be able to get there. But that is true. I think that there is and like I feel that there is a theme here, but we come back to what we were saying earlier, and is that you think that you have to know it all. You think that you have to get it all together. Like, and so there is a lot of masking among entrepreneurs of, oh yeah, things are doing very well, and the reality is that inside is a and I don't know if I can say that, but it's a shit show. Like there's so many things going on that, I mean, sometimes it's actually impacting your mental health. Like I think that depression and things like that are so common among entrepreneurs is because it's freaking hard. And many times we don't ask for help.
Yeah, and well, this the Endeavor, I think it was Endeavor experience in Miami, and I think it was in November last year, was focused mainly on the topic of mental health, and I think that's they nail it because it's something now there's capital in the market. If you're a startup, it's not hard to get capital. It's not hard to growth. It's not hard. Now, what we need is support because most of the reasons why companies don't succeed is not because the company is not meant to succeed, but because of the founders, fights between founders, and or problems in the founder, stress. You cannot really, you cannot really process the things in the same manner when you are under those situations, right?
Under stress. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's impossible to know. Yeah, it's impossible to be able to like sit down, take a breather, and see things from a perspective of, I guess, calm. If you're under a lot of stress, is impossible. So ideally, you ask for help before you get there.
Yeah.
So I think that, and it has happened to us as well. I think, like many times, you think that you can do it all, and you start grinding and grinding and grinding, but the reality is that you feel like you haven't advanced that much. But it's because you're not asking for help. You're not letting the people that can help you in to be able to, to help you move
So,
further.
okay, I like this topic. Let's talk a little bit about pivots and the power of reinvention, right? What was the failure from which you learned the most?
So I think I'm gonna say the most costly failure that we had is that you need to first interview your potential users very well. and do a lot of market research before you decide to um, invest money into a platform. Um, and this was true to, for example, one of the efforts that we did called, oh man, I lost the name of it. Let me go. Let me go. I'm letting it go. That's why. Let me go. I think that we decided to build a platform. We invested almost $3 million on it to be able to grow it, and we decided this is not going to go anywhere. And it's because we decided to create a business model that was probably not the right fit for that platform. And it's because we thought that our idea was more important than the market research, and that what like the market was actually telling us. So that's probably one of them. I think that's definitely the most important one. And the second one, I would say, I think know when you have to stop pursuing something. Or what are those, like, be very clear about what are those specific metrics that are going to tell you when to stop.
I love what you're saying right now, because some years ago, it was the whole movement of pivoting, right? And it was like, yeah, you gotta pivot, you gotta pivot. But at some point, is the people that succeeded were the ones that keep doing it for a longer time. And so it's super hard to say
It is.
stop or keep forward, and so maybe it will succeed. How do you know that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think it's really hard to know. I mean, I was talking the other day with one of the founders of Shazam, and I mean, when you think about it, um it's really incredible that Shazam started before apps. And
Yeah, it's
it
true.
was one of these things that you're like, but like, it was very hard to get to people at the time, and it was
Yeah.
very costly to like for people to actually, and it was very cumbersome as well. So, but they kept on pushing, they kept on pushing, they kept on pushing. They did whatever they need to do to be able to keep the business sort of like very nimble, so it could survive all of that process of getting into where it is now, and being bought by Apple. But I think that's a very hard thing to know. I think that if I'm pretty sure that they heard many times, like, I think you guys need to give up. I think you guys need to give up. I think you guys need to give up. And I don't know if anyone has the right answer for that, to be honest. I think that is a matter of how big and how impactful what you're doing, it, supposedly can be, and whether you have the stamina to be able to keep pushing.
The story tells that those companies that keep trying, they succeeded. But also, of course, if you keep trying and there is no real business behind it, it's more time that you're spending, you can be building something else. And
Exactly.
and it's a struggle that when everybody started like talking about the pivoting model, it was interesting because everybody was pivoting like 1 month. It didn't work. Let's do something else. It's like, hey, it's impossible that this worked that quick, right?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think that it's a matter of understanding clearly what you're pursuing and how long it may take you to get there. Yeah. But many times you don't know exactly, what you're pursuing. and and so that's when people start like, oh, I need to pivot, I need to change my business model, or I need to change this, or I need to add that, and many times it ends up creating a very convoluted, complex business model that, I mean, it's very hard that it's gonna work out.
And to that point, it probably is hard once you make a decision or pivoting or not. After that, you probably keep thinking, what if, right? What if I did this? What if I did that? Right? And that's
Yeah.
horrible. The other day I was talking, interviewing Ariel Poller, which is a very, very smart
Yeah, yeah.
investor, super smart. He's like a
I love
computer,
Ariel.
human computer.
I
And
haven't seen Ariel in a while, but yeah.
yeah, super, super smart. And he told me, in age, and asked him, did you wasn't able to invest in something or you didn't? And he told me the story about, not being able to invest, I think it was in Uber or something, like a big
I've heard
company.
this story. Yes.
And because he was doing kite surf in Egypt or something. And he told me, you let it go. It's like, he's a very mindful person. So I know, but for most of us, it's not that easy to say, why I didn't do this or that, right?
Yeah. We were talking about neurodiversity earlier, off camera. I think that especially for people with neurodiversity, like I have ADHD, we tend to we tend to hammer a lot on the things that we did that we think were bad. Like, like we ruminate a lot about how is it possible that I made that decision, and for a long, long time, actually, it's a torture. It's not healthy at all. That's one of the things that I have actually made a lot of effort into trying to get rid of, because it's very, very, very hard. And it makes you create cortisol, which is terrible. It ages you. We create enough cortisol being entrepreneurs, so no more. Yeah.
Yes. Let's go to the rapid fire. I know that you have to leave in probably 5 minutes. So let's go to the rapid fire, quick questions and answer.
Oh my
So
God.
let's
This
get,
is I'm not very good at that, because I tend to freak out, but let's
let's
try.
try it. Are you ready?
Ready.
Let's go. What's one habit that keeps you grounded?
One habit that keeps me grounded: exercising. I love exercising. Yeah.
Okay. Biggest myth about entrepreneurship.
Biggest
Myth.
that raising funds is easy. Oh yeah, I'm gonna raise funds and yeah.
I
I think
love
that's the
that answer.
biggest. Yeah.
What's something that you and Alex do that most co-founders couldn't pull off?
Wow, being married and having a business? Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's
Yeah,
hard. It's very
that's
hard.
probably the one. Yeah, the pivot you are proudest of.
The pivot that, wow, it's really interesting. So this wasn't necessarily a pivot, but it was definitely a branching out of, and it was Bunny Studio. Bunny Studio out of Voice 123. So
What a
at first,
success!
we actually thought that Bunny Studio was gonna um cannibalize a Voice 123, and they ended up continue growing both businesses. So.
What's the one thing you had to unlearn to grow as a founder?
Oof, so many freaking things. Growth mindset is the biggest thing. Like I had to unlearn to have a fixed mindset. Literally, I think I come from a country where fixed mindset is a thing, and I had to unlearn that and learn growth mindset.
If you weren't building companies, what would you be doing?
Wow. That's a really good question. Maybe so either hard sciences, I would love to be, like maybe a scientist or something like that, or like go the opposite side and just be a dancer.
Because you're Colombian.
Maybe, maybe I love dancing. That's my, that's the thing that I do that keeps me, balanced.
It's very funny because everybody knows all over the world that Argentinians don't know how to dance, and they make jokes about me. It's like one time I was at an Endeavor gala, and when the dance party arrived, my wife and we left the place, and someone asked me, "Are you from Argentina?"
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. I mean, you guys have tango, and tango is so beautiful.
No,
It's like the
no,
most
nobody.
beautiful dances. Nobody knows how to dance tango. It's
No,
hard.
nobody
It
knows
is
how to
hard.
dance
I've
tango.
I've I've done tango for a little bit,
Really?
so
Because you know how
yeah.
to dance, but I think I never, or my parents used to dance tango. They believed that they were very good at it, but they weren't. Who inspires you outside of tech?
Who inspires me outside of tech? Maya Angelou. I feel that it's very inspiring. Else? Oh man, I'm gonna have to think that further. I'll try to come back to that. Actually, Simone Biles. I
Okay.
used to do gymnastics as a child, and I feel that it's very, very hard. I guess, yeah, it's very hard environment to be in, especially when you have to start very young. And I think she has done an incredible job. And obviously, I mean, she's the GOAT. But Also the fact that she's very open about all of her, like mental health situation, and yeah, I mean, just open about herself. It's been incredible. So,
Inspiring for you. That's
yeah.
fantastic. Last question of the rapid fire, almost finished this fantastic interview. 3 words that describe your entrepreneurial style.
Oh, 3 words that describe my entrepreneurial style. I'm gonna say my entrepreneurial style. Oof. Oh, let me think about that. I'm gonna say collaborative. I'm gonna say also curious, because I feel there is a lot of curiosity behind being able to innovate and do things differently. And I'm going to say also, what will be the third one? Perseverance.
100%. I can
Yeah.
say that. Yes.
Yeah. Perseverance, collaborative, and curiosity, I guess.
Fantastic. Tania, it has been one of the most honest and human conversation I have in the show. I knew it was going to be a hit. That's why I was chasing you
Mm.
for a long time. Your story is proof that great companies don't come from perfect conditions. They come from embracing the challenges, integrating your life and work, and not being afraid to start over. So
Mm.
to the
Thank you.
people on the other side, please, if you like the video, this interview, like, make comments. Tania, thank you very much for being here. It's an honor, to be honest.
Juan, thank you so much. It is an honor for me as well. I love this kind of conversations. Yeah, I sincerely appreciate that you thought of me for the podcast, and I'm looking forward to hearing comments and maybe questions or things that come up from the viewers. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.